Imagine a treasure map where the X doesn't mark a chest of gold, but the final resting place of the most famous conqueror in human history. A man who, by the age of 32, had forged an empire that stretched from the sun-drenched beaches of Greece to the jagged peaks of India. Alexander the Great. When he died in Babylon in the year 323 BC, he left behind no clear heir, a fractured empire, and a question that would echo through millennia. What happened to his body? For centuries, his tomb was not a secret. It was the absolute heart of the ancient world. It was a monument so grand, so legendary, that Roman emperors crossed the Mediterranean just to kneel before it. Icons like Julius Caesar, Augustus, and Caligula stood in its presence. And then, in a flash of historical chaos, it vanished. For over 1,500 years, the Earth has kept its secret. Archaeologists have launched more than 100 official expeditions. They have dug up streets, dove into the depths of the Mediterranean, and tunneled under holy sites. Every single one of them came up empty-handed. But right now, in the bustling modern streets of Alexandria, Egypt, the ground is beginning to give up its secrets. New technology, relentless excavations, and a few shocking discoveries have brought us to a thrilling turning point. Are we finally closer than ever to uncovering the lost tomb of Alexander the Great? To understand why this is the ultimate historical cold case, we have to go back to the moment it all began. The place is Babylon. The year is 323 BC. Alexander has just died under mysterious circumstances. Some say poison, others say malaria or typhoid. He leaves behind a massive power vacuum. His generals, known as the Diadochi, immediately begin tearing the empire apart, carving out their own kingdoms. But amid the political chaos, there is one ultimate prize: everyone wants control of Alexander's corpse. In the ancient world, possessing the body of the dead king didn't just mean you had a relic. It gave you the divine right to rule. It was the ultimate symbol of legitimacy. Alexander's body was placed in a spectacular, custom-built funeral chariot. Historical texts describe it as a rolling palace, drawn by 64 mules, covered in solid gold, draped in purple fabrics, and adorned with priceless gemstones. The plan was to drive this magnificent carriage all the way back to Macedonia, Alexander's homeland, for a traditional royal burial. But one man had a very different plan. Ptolemy. He was one of Alexander's most trusted generals, a sharp strategist who had just claimed Egypt as his personal prize. Ptolemy knew that if Alexander's body made it back to Macedonia, his rivals would hold all the power. So, he decided to pull off the greatest heist of the ancient world. As the massive, slow-moving funeral train crawled through modern-day Syria, Ptolemy and his army ambushed it. They didn't steal gold or land. They hijacked the corpse of the world's greatest conqueror. Ptolemy diverted the grand chariot south, straight into Egypt. At first, he secured the body in the ancient capital of Memphis. But Ptolemy was building a brand new capital on the Mediterranean coast, a city designed to be the crown jewel of the ancient world, a city named after the conqueror himself, Alexandria. When the city was ready, Alexander's body was moved to its final permanent home. In Alexandria, the Ptolemaic dynasty constructed a massive royal burial complex known as the Soma, or the Sema, derived from the Greek word for body. This wasn't just a grave. It was a sprawling, sacred district located right at the intersection of the city's two main avenues. Imagine a monument built from the finest white marble, surrounded by lush gardens, temples, and obelisks. At its center lay a subterranean vault. Inside that vault, Alexander rested in a magnificent, solid gold sarcophagus, submerged in pure honey to preserve his body for eternity. For nearly 300 years, the Ptolemaic kings cared for this shrine. It became a site of religious worship. Alexander was no longer just a king. He was celebrated as a living god, the divine founder of the city. But as the centuries rolled on, Egypt's power began to fade, and a new empire cast its shadow over Alexandria, Rome. When the Roman Republic collapsed into the Roman Empire, its greatest leaders became obsessed with Alexander. They viewed him as the ultimate standard of military perfection. Naturally, their first stop in Egypt was always the Soma. Julius Caesar visited the tomb in 48 BC. He walked down into the dim, honey-scented vault, stood before the golden sarcophagus, and reportedly wept. He was in his early 40s, and he lamented that he had achieved so little compared to Alexander, who had conquered the known world before dying at 32. A few decades later, Caesar's adopted son, Octavian, who would become Emperor Augustus, arrived in Alexandria after defeating Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Augustus demanded to see the body. The priests reluctantly brought the mummy out of its golden coffin. According to the Roman historian Suetonius, Augustus gazed upon the face of Alexander, laid a crown of gold upon his head, and scattered fresh flowers over his body. But then, Augustus got a little too close. In a moment of intense awe, he leaned in to kiss the conqueror's face and accidentally snapped a piece of Alexander's nose off. Despite the clumsy accident, the Roman obsession only grew. The erratic Emperor Caligula later ordered the tomb opened for a very different reason. He didn't want to pay respects. He wanted a souvenir. Caligula reportedly snatched Alexander's personal breastplate right off the mummy and wore it around Rome like a costume. The last Roman emperor recorded to have visited the tomb was Caracalla, around the year 215 AD. Caracalla was so infatuated with Alexander that he left his own imperial ring, his belt, and his expensive tunics on top of the sarcophagus as a grand offering. And then, shortly after Caracalla's visit, the historical record goes completely dark. By the end of the 4th century, the tomb of Alexander the Great, a monument that had been visited by millions, guarded by kings, and written about by the greatest historians of antiquity, simply vanished from human sight. How does a massive marble monument in the middle of a major global metropolis just disappear? The answer lies in a perfect storm of natural disasters, religious warfare, and geopolitical chaos. During the late 3rd and 4th centuries, Alexandria was pushed into a brutal downward spiral. The city was rocked by continuous civil wars within the Roman Empire. Armies marched through the streets, burning down entire neighborhoods. The royal quarter, the very area where the Soma was located, was repeatedly leveled and rebuilt. Then came nature's fury. In the year 365 AD, a catastrophic earthquake struck the Mediterranean, triggering a massive tsunami. A wall of water crashed into Alexandria, swallowing entire coastal districts and causing parts of the ancient city to slide directly into the sea. Structures that had stood for centuries were instantly buried under tons of water, mud, and debris. But perhaps the most destructive force was human ideology. During this exact era, the Roman Empire was undergoing a massive cultural shift. Christianity was transitioning from a persecuted underground movement into the official state religion. Emperor Theodosius issued a series of decrees banning pagan worship, ordering the destruction of non-Christian temples, shrines, and monuments. To the early Christians, Alexander the Great wasn't a hero. He was a pagan false god whose shrine stood as an offense to their faith. The Soma, with its divine worship of a mortal man, became a primary target. Historians believe that during this period of religious upheaval, the tomb was either intentionally destroyed, stripped of its wealth, or sealed up and forgotten to protect it from angry mobs. By the year 400 AD, the transformation was complete. The church father John Chrysostom wrote a letter challenging his contemporaries, asking a bold question: Tell me, where is the tomb of Alexander? Show it to me. No one could answer him. The city had forgotten where its founder lay. For the next 1,500 years, Alexandria grew, evolved, and built over its own past. The ancient Ptolemaic city became a memory, buried deep beneath layers of Roman, Byzantine, Islamic, and modern Egyptian civilizations. But the mystery never died. It only fueled the imagination of explorers, adventurers, and archaeologists. The hunt for Alexander's tomb became the holy grail of historical exploration. Over the years, 3 major theories emerged about where the body might actually be. The first theory focuses on the Mosque of Nabi Daniel, located in the older quarters of modern Alexandria. For centuries, local rumors and whispers have claimed that the mosque was built directly on top of Alexander's ancient resting place. In the 19th century, a tour guide and clerk named Heinrich Stier claimed he sneaked into the subterranean cellars beneath the mosque. He described looking through a wooden door and seeing a human body preserved in a glass case, surrounded by ancient scrolls. It sounds like a Hollywood movie script, but the story sparked a frenzy. Archaeologists rushed to investigate, but the religious authorities tightly controlled the site. While excavations around the mosque have uncovered ancient Roman roads and catacombs, the deep hidden vaults beneath the mosque floor remain largely untouched and unexplored. The second major theory takes us out of the city altogether, deep into the harsh, scorched landscape of the western desert, the Siwa Oasis. Before Alexander conquered Persia, he made a perilous trek across the desert to visit the Oracle of Ammon at Siwa. It was there that the oracle confirmed a profound truth to him, that he was not just the son of King Philip of Macedonia, but the literal son of the god Zeus Ammon. Alexander was deeply moved by this experience. Historical texts record that his initial deathbed wish was actually to be buried at the Siwa Oasis, close to the divine father who had claimed him. In the 1990s, a Greek archaeologist named Liana Suvalsi claimed she had found Alexander's true tomb at Siwa. She uncovered a massive Hellenistic-style monument, complete with stone lions, royal emblems, and tablets that she interpreted as references to Ptolemy transporting Alexander's body to the oasis. The announcement shocked the world. Headlines proclaimed that the mystery was solved. But when international experts arrived to examine the site and the inscriptions, the consensus quickly fell apart. The tablets turned out to be from a much later Roman period, and the architectural style didn't match a royal tomb of that scale. The Egyptian government eventually revoked her excavation license, and the Siwa theory faded back into the desert sands. That brings us to the third and most scientifically sound theory: the body never left Alexandria. It is still there, right beneath the feet of the city's modern residents, hidden under 30 feet of soil, water, and concrete. Hunting for antiquities in Alexandria is an absolute nightmare for archaeologists. It is not like the Valley of the Kings, where you can sweep away dry sand to reveal a hidden doorway. Alexandria is a living, breathing metropolis of over 5 million people. You can't just bulldoze a modern apartment complex or a bustling highway because you think an ancient king is buried underneath it. Furthermore, because of the ancient earthquakes and rising sea levels, a massive portion of Alexander's royal district is now completely submerged underwater in the eastern harbor. Divers have mapped out sunken palaces, sphinxes, and columns. But searching through the murky, polluted coastal waters for a specific, buried vault is like looking for a needle in an ocean-sized haystack. But despite these overwhelming odds, one extraordinary woman refused to give up, and her stubborn persistence has completely changed the game. Enter Calliope Limnaeos Papakosta, a Greek archaeologist who has spent more than 20 years digging in Alexandria. For over 2 decades, she faced skepticism, tight budgets, bureaucratic hurdles, and endless dead ends. People told her she was chasing a ghost, But she focused her efforts on a specific spot, the Shallalat Gardens, a beautiful public park right in the heart of modern Alexandria. Papacosta knew that according to ancient maps, this park sat precisely where the royal quarter once flourished. But to get to the Ptolemaic layer, she had to dig deeper than anyone had ever bothered to go before. She and her team engineered an advanced pumping system to constantly clear out the water that seeps into the trenches from the nearby water table. They dug down 10 feet, then 20 feet, then 30 feet. And then the earth began to answer. First, they found a stunning, lifelike white marble statue of a young man. The artistic style, the tilt of the head, and the distinct flowing hair were unmistakable. It was an original Hellenistic statue of Alexander the Great himself. Today, it stands proudly in the Alexandria National Museum. Finding the statue was a massive psychological boost, but Papacosta wasn't looking for art. She was looking for architecture. As they dug deeper into the muddy trenches, her team struck stone, massive, heavy stone blocks. They had uncovered the foundations of a monumental building from the early Ptolemaic era. The scale of the construction was breathtaking. The walls were several feet thick, built with the precise, high-end craftsmanship reserved only for royal palaces or grand public monuments. Even more incredible, they discovered that this massive building lay directly along the path of the ancient city's main royal highway, the exact road where ancient historians placed the Soma complex. Papacosta had successfully bypassed the modern city, bypassed the Roman ruins, and breached the elusive, long-lost lair of Alexander's Alexandria. The excavation is still actively ongoing. Every season, using ground-penetrating radar, satellite imaging, and old-fashioned sweat, the team maps out more of this massive underground structure. They are peeling back the skin of a modern city to reveal the bones of an empire. So, are we truly closer than ever? The answer is a resounding yes. For centuries, the search for Alexander's tomb was based on guesswork, folklore, and treasure hunting. Today, it is driven by cutting-edge science and systematic, deep earth archaeology. We are no longer guessing where the royal quarter is. We are actively walking through its ruins. Of course, in archaeology, caution is everything. Finding a royal Ptolemaic building is a historic triumph, but proving it is the specific tomb of Alexander requires definitive evidence. We need an inscription, a royal cartouche, or the unmistakable remnants of the legendary vault itself. But the excitement in the scientific community is palpable. For the first time in generations, we aren't looking at empty desert landscapes or staring into muddy waters, wondering what if. We are standing on top of the very stones that Ptolemy laid down, the very pathways that Julius Caesar and Augustus walked when they went to pay homage to the man who conquered the world. The tomb of Alexander the Great isn't just a collection of ancient bones and gold. It is a symbol of human ambition. It is the final chapter in the story of a man who changed the course of global civilization forever. The Earth of Alexandria has guarded this secret fiercely for over 1,500 years, surviving wars, floods, and the rise and fall of entire empires. But the layers of time are finally wearing thin. With every bucket of earth removed from the trenches of the Shallalat Gardens, the gap between the modern world and the ancient conqueror shrinks. The clues are lining up, the technology is adapting, and the world is watching. The greatest archaeological mystery in history is slowly stepping out of the shadows. And we might just be the generation that finally looks upon the face of Alexander once more.